They said it was too late, that the best years were behind him. But he wasn't done. He was just getting dangerous. This podcast isn't for the overnight success stories. It's for the ones who are still in the middle of the damn fight. The late bloomers, the blue-collar visionaries, the people who refuse to settle. This isn't a comeback. It's a fucking uprising.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Electrician entrepreneur. Quite a bit going on these last couple of weeks, and get you caught up on all that in a second. But today we want to talk a little bit about excitement and abundance, and we'll talk a little bit about, we're going to kind of go over all those things that I was just hinting at over the last couple of weeks. Let's go ahead and we'll just start right off the bat. What we want to talk about is what I kind of want to go over a little bit. I want to talk about what's been going on in my life, what's been kind of dragging me down. So as you may be aware from the previous couple of episodes of the podcast, and I know that I'm a couple weeks behind here, but you may know from the last couple of weeks of podcast episodes that I've been struggling with some internal issues. These things have been causing quite a bit of friction with getting my business started. We've got the LLC, we've got the tax ID, everything's been filed. So we have a business. It's started. It's just, we're not generating leads. We're not bringing in any business. And we're just kind of going around and around and around and around in circles. And, I want to be very clear about what this is or what's been going on. And because it's very important, I think it's very important for everyone, anyone who's thinking about getting into business, especially this late in life. There's a lot of trepidation. I think that we're all wired very much to try, to be careful, to dip our toes in and then, see how it goes. Don't just throw caution to the wind and go for it. We've all been taught throughout our lives not to do something along those lines. Excuse me. And in reality, my stupid chair, in reality, we all, I think that it's a mistake to think that you shouldn't, just go all out. However, going all out doesn't mean being stupid. You should plan things through. You just have to understand, and this is something that we talked about very early in the podcast, was, you can't go for perfect. You have to plan things out, but you can't go for perfect. So that's to say, once you have a plan, go for it. Now, one of the biggest problems that we have, I think in general, as, developed adults, I guess is a good way to put it. One of the things that we have is this, it becomes easy to think that maybe you can't, that you shouldn't go a certain direction just because, it doesn't seem smart. You dip your toes in, so to speak, just a little bit. And that's that old way of thinking, right? And when you dip your toes in, the water's a bit cold and you kind of say, fuck that. Well, that doesn't stop happening, by the way. And you continue to do that. You're going to continue to do that until you see results, until you see real results. But the mistake of it is believing that the water's too cold. Now, we all know that once you get in the water, if we're going to stick with the whole swimming analogy, once you get into the water, it becomes, your body becomes adjusted to it. Your body temperature kind of sort of shifts a little bit to match that of the temperature of the water. Your heart rate may speed up, whatever, but you physiologically, you become more accustomed to it, and it becomes less of a shock the longer you're in it. The thing is it's very similar in deciding to do something, making a radical change in your life, such as starting a business or starting over. The same can be said, about changing careers. Instead of starting a business, maybe you want to try a different career, work for somebody else, other than the person you're working for, making any kind of major change in your life. It's some changes are easier than others, especially when you're going for a W-2. The W-2 is gives you a little bit of it's kind of a security blanket. And that's great if you're okay with that, if you if that's where you feel that you need to be, that somebody else is in charge, that somebody else is directing your movements, and you're okay with all that, that's okay. But making that change from one career to the next and staying within that W-2 security blanket, so to speak, that it's a bit easier than, say, completely changing, and jumping out into a sink or swim situation, such as creating a business. Maybe, creating the business, maybe you're just going to be a solopreneur, as they call it. Whereas to say you're not going to hire anybody, you're just, consulting services kind of fit into that. And or maybe if you're an electrician or some a blue collar tradesman, and you're just going to simply provide your services, you'll take care of everything from. Okay, that's a major, that's a sink or swim situation. Now, going into business and hoping to grow a business to the point that you do have employees and all those other things is a bit more daunting, but it's not really any different. And it's and you don't the big problem that you're going to face when you're getting into it is you're putting all these plans together, you start the business, you're not seeing results, you're struggling to get things going. You begin to feel like you're kind of having that dip your toes in moment, and then you begin to turn around and question if you should continue to go forward. And this won't go away until you have real results. And even then, you're probably going to, and now see, at this point, I have to speculate, but based on everything I've read and all these people that I've been following for the last year, I would say that it doesn't completely go away, even after you've seen results and you've managed to have some sort of success along the way. You're still going to have your moments of, Jesus Christ, everything just crashed down around me. Maybe this is my failing. Maybe I should go back to what I was doing before. The thing is your old life was always going to pull back at you. And this is a tough thing to ignore. It's really hard to get past all of that. So kind of tying this in and making you understand exactly how this relates to the last couple of weeks for me. I've been I think I put a lot of energy into this new idea behind having ADHD. and trying to learn how to cope with it and how to use that to my advantage, and and really begin to understand it as far as how my business is, as far as how it relates to the way I do things, how I can shape things. I mean, after all, I'm changing almost every aspect of my life. Why not, use this opportunity to become, to really shape my behaviors around the idea that I have ADHD. So now, everybody needs to understand that there's, there are levels. You can be extremely hyperactive, lack of focus, or you can be a lot more reserved, but still lack focus. I think that, in reality, there's a lot more people that are going undiagnosed with ADHD than the world understands. But regardless, I got, at any rate, I'm getting off topic, but I focus so much on all of that I kind of, I think I fell into a little bit of a rhythm of beating myself up. and it's very, very, very hard not to beat yourself up when you're not really you don't have any results behind anything that you're doing. We, as a tradesman, who's been in trades for over 20, for 20 years or more. And for, any of you guys that are tradesmen, you may understand this as well. We're results oriented. Everything about our career has always been about results. It's about it. It's the speed in which you can do things. It's, maybe it's the quality of your work. At the end of the day, it's getting the job done. Right. And so we're all very results oriented. The thing about running a business is that you can't, and the thing about changing the way you are as a, if you're going in that direction, or if you're making that change for the sake of finding greater peace with yourself, or just becoming more healthy or whatever, there is a mindset to it, and you have to let go of being results oriented, because the issue with being results oriented is you don't see the results right away. And in the case of business, it can take years before you see any tangible results. In the case of just learning how to be a little more peaceful or a little more content with your life, it can take years before you have any real tangible results. So, excuse me. So what I'm kind of trying to paint a picture here is that you have to have really strong self-talk, which means letting go of that results-oriented feel. Because if it takes so long to see any or get any real tangible results, then you're going to constantly be treating yourself as a failure, or very easily could anyway. Some people are just very, very good at, loving themselves, and that's great. Most of us, I think, are not. Most of us kind of have been conditioned throughout the entirety of our lives to look for results and to base our entire feeling of ourselves on the basis of whether or not we've had any real tangible results. And nothing can drive you from being successful at anything faster than beating yourself up. The truth of the matter is that any time that you doubt that you're going to be successful, the truth of the fact is that doubt is already setting you up to fail. If you never have any doubt that you're going to be successful, then you can't fail. And the reason you can't fail is because the fact that you don't doubt, you will continue to drive and drive and drive and drive. And, that's how all the people that are successful became successful. I don't remember what the exact statistics are, but Jeff Bezos, of course, I don't know how many times he shopped around for, somebody to invest in Amazon before he finally, I mean, tons and tons and tons of times. And it's the tenacity, right? It's simply going after it and just knowing that you can't fail and that you have to keep going. That's how you become successful. So if you never doubt yourself, then how can you ever say that you're going to fail? Or how can you ever fail? Because if you don't doubt yourself, you're going to, regardless of what anybody says, regardless of those rejections, regardless of everything else, you're going to keep going because you have no doubt in yourself. And most of us who have had doubts about ourselves, who have a certain feeling about ourselves, anything from the way we appear or to, the quality of our work, to, our work ethics, to, whatever it is, we've had these doubts that have been lingering our whole lives about this, that, and the other thing, maybe just doubting the future in general. We become so accustomed to, to reacting to bad things happening that we half expect everything to be bad when it happens, when everything in the future to be bad. It's like they say, expect the worst, hope for the best. And that's that's a mentality that's really set you up for failure. It doesn't mean that you're going to fail with that mentality, but because obviously, if you made it this far in life, you haven't failed. That's the ultimate failure. If you haven't reached the ultimate failure. So, and that, if you're listening to this, then you have some monochrome of success. So point being, actually, I lost my train of thought. What my point was. What I'm trying to say is that we self-talk is one of the most important things in your life. If you don't have the appropriate self-talk and you allow that doubt to come in, to fester, to create negative self-talk, if you allow all those things, then you will not find the level of success. You will never be anything beyond mediocre. So the first thing we have to do is we have to learn to show ourselves love, to immediately allow these negative thoughts to go right out of our mind. It's okay if you've been doing it for years and years and years, saying this thing's bad about you or that thing's bad, this, that, the other, and all these things. You've been doing that for so many years, you have to give yourself a little bit of grace. See, this is another thing. This is where the paradox is, because you beat yourself up and then you beat yourself up for beating yourself up. So don't expect that the thoughts are just going to stop because you say, I'm not going to do that anymore. You have to start to train yourself. So you train yourself by, once you've thought the negative thought, recognize the negative thought, allow the negative thought to allow yourself to understand that negative thought, and then allow that negative thought to go. And we do this for two reasons. One, get accustomed to just letting that negativity it will come. Negativity can't stop coming. It will come. You have to get used to and strengthen that muscle that just allows it to continue to move beyond. And then beyond that, you also need to understand why you allow these negative thoughts to run around in your head, because there is a reason that you play these scenarios out in your head that don't work out, that you have these doubts, that you do all these things. There's a reason behind it, and you need to get to the bottom of that. Why? Because understanding yourself through and through, which most people do not do. Most people are afraid to understand what it is that makes them tick. Why do I hurt so bad? Why do I beat myself up so much? Why do I react so quickly to the way people are? Why do I react so quickly? And, why do I get so angry when I'm driving? Nobody wants to know the real answers behind all those things. We allow these things to these little traumas throughout our lives to sit there untouched, and they fester, right? They become they become fermented with all this negativity, and you don't realize that when you're reacting to something, just you don't, without any idea why, but you just react, get pissed off, scream at somebody, honk the horn, freaking throw something, all those things. That quick snap to react like that is not a purely physiological response. There is a psychological element to it. So, if you're looking for some level of contentment and some level of success, you need to, just like all the greats, everybody else out there who is that successful, you need to understand everything at the bottom of it. You need to know you inside and out. You are the number one tool, right? Your body, your mind is the number one tool you have for getting anything done. And then beyond that, everything else is secondary and can be figured out. The hardest thing to figure out is yourself. But it's just as important as knowing and understanding how to use any other tool. So this is why we have to take the time when that negativity comes in. We take the time to go through that negativity and understand what triggered that negativity. And we understand that after we've begun to recognize that negativity when it comes. So that's why it's very important to kind of go through all of that and get to understanding it. Now, again, we're going to circle back because I'm running without a script this week. But so I'm saying that because it's been 20 some odd minutes, and I keep saying that I'm going to get talk about the last couple of weeks, and I really haven't. I've just been kind of going on, but this is kind of the lead up to the story. So this is what I was going through. It was a lot of self-doubt. Going through a lot of self-doubt in the last couple of weeks. And a lot of it had to do with, I think, like I said, I got into this repetition of the ADHD, beating myself up, and all these other things. And I'm so locked in on that I'm avoiding, of course, anything to do with the business and getting the business done. I'm trying to cure a problem that I've been dealing with my entire life, which I can do over time, as opposed to the getting started on a business, which can give me better results now. And so that brings up a whole other issue, which it took me quite a while to really kind of settle in and understand what that was. So I had a couple of big breakthroughs. One is, and I'm going to dedicate an entire episode to it so that you guys can understand. But one of my big breakthroughs was the difference, the understanding of true abundance, the true laws of abundance. So it is basically a reframed my gratitude each morning to what am I currently excited about coming up. And like I said, I'll get into that whole thing with my next episode. The other breakthrough that I had, because immediately after I had that breakthrough, I had, 2, 3 days of fantastic, I just felt fantastic. Felt like I was starting to get some things done. It was great. And thing is that, I kind of, ADHD, something comes along, snaps my attention and pulls me away from what I'm trying to accomplish. And all of a sudden it's like I'm starting over again in trying to get myself up to speed and get that momentum back up and doing work. And it's easy, and I find myself I find that I'm beating myself up over it. And so this brings us to the next breakthrough, which, was kind of okay. So one of the biggest things that I've been trying to build in order to help me build this business is I've been trying to build what I refer to as my virtual management team. And, you can think of this like if you were to look at any executive board, you kind of look at it that way. So I've got my uh, chief executive officer, my chief operations officer, chief financial officer, and each one of them has a very specific task. And all of them kind of act as advisors to the, to the founder, the one who makes the final decisions on everything. Um, Maybe the board of trustees or whatever, but in this case, the founder. And I've been building this team because, I've been seeing this ADHD and all these other things as being real roadblocks in my productivity. I need to understand as I'm building the business why we need to do certain things. Excuse me. Why, what people are going to be looking for. I need to learn as fast as I can. I'm trying to learn marketing. I'm trying to learn sales. I'm trying to learn, um, development, application development, and the list goes on and on and on. And I'm really trying to learn all kinds of aspects of not just running a business, but, development of product. And, all of these, in trying to manage all of these things and having ADHD, I'm constantly pulling myself in 20 directions, and this tends to create a real problem with productivity. Now, we've talked about all this, I know, plenty of times, but this is the point is that this is the reason for me trying to create this virtual team. I had an artificial intelligence advisor, so to speak, for all these different aspects, so that I can learn things, so that I can understand, what I'm missing in the development of something, how I can better manage finances and all these other things, because when you're starting out a business, you're wearing every hat, right? Well, the beautiful thing about artificial intelligence is that while we have to wear all these different hats, we can have a whole team of experts at our fingertips. We still do all the work, we still make all the big decisions, but we have an expert for each individual aspect of a business that we otherwise, we would be struggling to deal with. And so that's, rather than me fighting with my attention, it was like, oh crap, well now I got to figure out my finances. Oh crap, well now I got to learn how to code. No, shit, I should freaking I should read those, those really good books on marketing and sales, and I should have a coach for this, and I should have a coach for that, and blah blah blah. My ADD, I can't freaking, I can't. I'd constantly be going in 20 directions. So I gotta, what I've got to do is I've got to pull in, or I've got to create something that helps me focus in. And so I'm developing this team and for that reason. Now, so, with this breakthrough on excitement and everything, I begin to do all this stuff and whatnot, and then I kind of lost a little bit of momentum, and the reason being is that when when I get frustrated, when I've been getting frustrated lately, I've been ready to quit. My frustrations have just been, it's like I'm tired of being frustrated all the time. And remember, I mean, for the last few weeks, I've been beating myself up over the ADD and trying to learn how to deal with that and all these other things. So my frustration has been probably at an all-time high for weeks, right? And I'm tired of being frustrated. So I'm getting to a point where I'm ready to quit. And I mean, on a regular basis, ready to quit, right? And then I had this other, and it's funny when you tell AI, don't just give me what I want to hear, what you think I want to hear. Tell me when I'm being an asshole. Tell me, because you can get it to stop. In generally speaking, AI just wants you to make you happy, and so it tries to create these patterns of predicting how you're going to, what kind of information is going to make you happy when it responds to you. But you can train that out of it. I mean, it's not going to be, it's in reality, it's doing, it's going to give you shit because it thinks that's going to make you happy. So it's a little bit of a paradox, but once you understand that and you program, you can program AI out of just, giving you bullshit. You still have to fact check it because no matter how you look at it, it's still just running on predictive patterns. But I flipped out and I told this particular prompt, I says, well, you know what? Fuck this. I'm fucking done. And it called me out and says, "Hey, asshole." I mean, it didn't actually say this, but it's along those lines. "Hey, asshole, you're the one that told me to act this specific way. You're the one that said that you have all these issues and I need to treat you this very particular way because you have all these issues. And you're the one that's looking to, and at the end of the day, this is what you asked for. Everything you're going through is what you asked for, asshole." and and the funny thing about that is I stopped and I thought about that for a minute and I said, absolutely right. Absolutely right. What is wrong with me? That I say, treat me like a fucking douche, and then when you do, I get upset with you. So, um, yeah. So it actually said to me, it says, "Listen, um, you mentioned at one point in our conversation that you consider yourself, been considering yourself as a bit of an escape artist for years, and here you are ready to escape from doing the hard thing. Right now, you know that the number one thing that you need to do is you need to work on this product, on this service, so that you can begin to start generating leads and start generating those sales." And I says, "Wait a minute. Now, I don't know what you guys just heard from what I said, but let me reiterate it. You mentioned to me earlier in this conversation that you considered yourself an escape artist for many years, and that's what I caught, right? Being the escape artist. Now, what do I mean by that? I think we've talked about this before. So what I mean when I say, that I've been an escape artist for many, many years is like anytime I found some sort of success, I'm afraid that the next thing that's going to happen is I'm going to fall on my face, right? This is the deep down. Remember, I'm going to, just real quick, talked about getting to the bottom of things, understanding yourself from the top down, right? And I mean down. So now, when I was, you know, when I was little, um, I began a trauma that started with the abandonment. And I've always, I used to ruin relationships with girls because of the fear of abandonment. I'd quit jobs after, I mean, I worked bunch of jobs, whole bunch of jobs in a 4-year span, right after, between high school and after graduation. I did all these different things, and I would stick around for not very long, and then I quit. Well, they were going to fire me anyway, would be my excuse. And, the truth is that I don't know that they're going to fire me. I really wasn't happy with the job. So, I mean, I have to give myself a little grace. I was never happy with any of the jobs, but I would run away. I would always run away. And it's, you're beating, this is a response. You're beating somebody else to the punch, right? Creating this, creating a scenario that you don't, based on a hypothetical. So, I know I keep moving my mic around. I'm not editing this, Julie. Okay. Fuck the mics moving around. Fuck the coffee. Fuck everything else. I'm not editing this. This is going to be as raw as it gets. I'm going to add the music in the beginning of everything, and I'm just going to fucking wing it. I don't. We're not getting any more raw than this. And the reason why is because I think that it's necessary. I think I need to just, I've got to get an episode out, first of all. And it's like, I know this is way off topic, ruining the flow of the show, but I've got to get an episode out. I have to try to be more consistent. And secondly, there's all this stuff that's been going on, and I think it's important for anyone that does listen on a regular basis, or maybe this is your first time listening, for people to hear these things. It's a hard truth, everything that I'm saying. These are hard truths. So at any rate, back to what I was, where I was. So this fear of abandonment and this ultimate response of running away from things before I can get hurt, so to speak, quitting jobs. That also led itself to self-medication, so to speak, plenty of drinking, the drugs, and all those things. When I reached the pinnacle of my success in my career, my chosen profession, which, by the way, I was 31 before I became an electrician, or 30. And, so up to that point, I didn't really have any one direction. I was going after web development, but I gave up on that. Why? I felt like I failed. The truth is I didn't, I didn't. At least if I believed in myself, I wouldn't have. But I allowed all these things to happen immediately after that, and then I settled into becoming an electrician at the age of 30. And what I dug in. I found an absolute love for everything, everything to do with it, from the financial side of it to the the technical side of it to the know-how side of it, the physical labor, everything. And oh my God, I was never more at home than I was on a job site when I could tell somebody to shove something right up their ass, and it was considered normal. That's just the way we all talk to each other. Now, these things are not the same, but to some degree, they still hold a little true. But at any rate, you know, although everything about it I fell in love with, and so I went after it like, you know, like there was no tomorrow, and I found, you know, uh, from inception to license was 5 years, but there was a couple of layoffs involved. So, you know, I got my license in the appropriate amount of time considering, and immediately after getting my license was made a foreman. And within 5 years, I think it was 5 years. 5 years I was lead foreman, and 2 years later I was or 3 years later I was a project manager. Now, when I got my license and became foreman, I, in my mind, had reached the pinnacle of my success. And how did I deal with that? I started drinking like a fucking fish. And then the success just kept going. I became lead foreman. I drank heavier. But just before I got my promotion to project manager, I pissed my marriage away. And it just, I just kept going. Okay. And until I woke up one day after having completely throttled my entire career aside, looking to start all over, thinking that was that where I was the problem. No, it couldn't have been me. Right. And then one day I woke up and said, you know what? I'm not happy doing any of this anymore. I'm getting too old, first of all, to be swinging a hammer and freaking, slinging, Romex around or MC or whatever. But, you know, because I beat my body up really hard in those first 5 years as an apprentice, you know, and the next couple of years as a foreman. I beat myself up really good physically. So, you know, after 18, 19 years and I'm back in the field and I'm freaking trying to do the same thing I was 10 years earlier, 15 years earlier. Well, shit, my body doesn't want to do it. And the other thing too is that I'm tired of fighting for everybody's fucking respect. I'm a fucking good electrician. And if you don't like the way I do things, get the fuck off my job site. And I'm tired of having to say that, you know, and I'm tired of all of that. I don't want to prove myself to anybody. I shouldn't have to prove myself to anybody. And I thought that was a good enough reason for me to get the fuck out. In reality, it was that was my wake-up call. That's when I said to myself, well, fuck. Maybe it's me. So that's when accountability started. Shortly after that. That's when I started to say, you know, if we can't hold ourselves accountable, then we'll continue to freaking drive around in circles and never get anywhere. You know, it's not just about not being a victim. It's also about recognizing, you know, when you made this decision to do this thing, you're the one that fucking made that decision. You can't say why you made that fucking decision. You have the choice to react one way, to react another way, to not react. You get the choice. We, as human beings, we have control over three things, and three things only in our entire lives. One is we get to choose we get to control how we feel about things. We get to control how we think about things. And we get to control how we react to things. That's it. That's all you get. Right? Every action you make is yours and yours alone. So you can't blame anything on anybody else. But that also equates to you can't blame it on the past. Now, but if you understand that what you're doing is some pent-up reaction to something from before, then you can control how you do that, how you react to that. Oh, shit, yeah, I just triggered that the fear of abandonment thing. I just triggered that again. well, I guess I'm not, now that I recognize that I triggered that fear of abandonment thing, I can say to myself, well, all right, so we're not going to go down that avenue. We know where that goes. We know where that road goes. We don't like it there. So, so all these, so this recognition, right? This sudden breakthrough, and this is the biggest breakthrough I think that I've had in quite a while. This big breakthrough boils down to this: is this escape artist. I need to start fighting with this escape artist, and I need to start understanding and recognizing, and start to kind of figure out how to recognize when I trigger those fear of abandonment moments. And I'm trying to remember what the other way in which I framed it. It's um, that's a good one. I wish I could think of what that is. Maybe I will edit out a little bit of this video. But at any rate, learning how to, beginning to understand these things. It's self-sabotage. See, fear of abandonment causes self-sabotage for me. Now, self-sabotage is an actual part, a necessary step to becoming, changing your life to being successful. Everybody who's ever been successful that I've, read about or watched, followed, they all say the same thing. They all go through these periods of self-sabotage. It's recognizing when you're beginning to take part in the self-sabotage, that you can turn it around. Just like anything else, when you recognize that you're repeating a behavior, repeating a pattern, when you can recognize those things, then you can learn how, first, why, and then how to not do it. Coffee's not agreeing with me. When you recognize all those things, excuse me, and you start to change and you start to deal with those things, this is when the real enlightenment comes, right? This is when the real success starts to set in. After I realized this, I went to town creating my AI framework. In addition to creating my AI framework, I also started to document the whole thing, because this is going to be the first lesson and the one lesson I give away for my school content. And so I'm going to use this particular episode and right now to kind of advertise that. I'm going to set up a link to my school page. And I currently have it set up for $10 a month. I'm going to actually make it free. And this lesson plan is not available yet. It's my first lesson plan, but it will be available soon. And this is going to be how I went about creating my AI team. And this AI team, or this lesson plan, I'm going to give it away for free, and then there'll be additional lesson plans for various other things about that I talk about more or less here on the podcast. But for now, I'm going to make it free. This lesson plan will be free, and then I'll at some point I got to start getting paid for all of my efforts. So I'll start charging probably for membership later. And then, nothing big. I mean, if you buy coffee every day, you're probably spending $2 a day. Let's say it's just during the week. So it's, $10 a week. that's $40 a month. I'm not even charging that. $10 a month to be a member. It helps me. It helps to justify me, putting the effort of putting all this stuff together, and it also pays for the platform. But additionally, if you are interested in this sort of stuff and you begin to use it, it will pay for itself. So, I I would very much appreciate if, for now, like I said, I'll make it free for probably, a couple months, just to kind of get the first, get whoever I can to jump in and start taking part and all that stuff. But, and then I'll increase it, or I'll set up a fee for, everybody else, and we'll have what we'll refer to as our founders crew. At any rate, so that came out of, this breakthrough. The AI team is coming out of this breakthrough, and what's going to end up happening is, and I've already got automations. I've already got one automation going. I'm going to create more automations off, from that. And of course, the more time I spend on all these, different aspects of AI and everything, I'm going to, create some sort of lesson plan, that I can, again, so now I'm beginning to create a revenue. And the thing is, and I don't know how it's going to do. And it doesn't matter to me how it's going to do. It would be nice. It'd be good to pay for everything. But additionally, but the point is that all of this, things are starting to, I'm starting to really take action, and I'm starting to not be afraid to pull the trigger on things, to not, to kind of, I'm making other changes too. I mean, beyond just the work that I'm doing, I'm doing things differently on, with my morning ritual and my evening ritual and all these other things. And some of this we'll talk about, like I said, over the next week. But, all these things suddenly came out of nowhere once I started to realize and started to recognize this self-sabotage, when it's coming, how it's coming, and what's going on with all of that. And I mean, it's elating. I don't know if that's a word. I'm elated. I feel great. I feel wonderful. So much so that Julie and I decided to go out and get freaking blasted Saturday, which could have almost cost us another week from the podcast, but we didn't, but I didn't, and that's why I'm going without a script, really, is that I just, I want to keep my momentum going, and I don't want, um, I'm not particularly thrilled with the notes that I have for the for the excitement and abundance episode, but so I just decided to wing it and just tell you guys, you use the whole hour to kind of go over what's been going on and what all this means. And I think that, I'm going to wrap this episode up by saying this. If you're listening, if you're watching, if you pay attention at all to what I'm doing, whether or not you plan on changing careers or becoming, having this freaking business, running a business, or any of those things, maybe you just want, I don't know, whatever you're doing, work on understanding yourself. I think, I was watching an interview with a woman who was talking about, a sudden change in the way how we accept things when we come up on middle age. And I think that, that's a very important subject, is how we approach the world in middle age. None of us wants to deal with the bullshit anymore. Everybody feels like they don't have time for the games anymore. But, I think the most important thing that anybody and everybody needs to understand, or needs to start to kind of put together as they approach middle age, is that at what point, ask yourself, at what point did you do anything for your contentment? Did you really think about, am I content with my life? And what do I need to do to be content with my life? And, and that's more or less what this entire this entire hour has been about. And because this, this self-sabotage breakthrough was the moment in which I said to myself, now I get it. I've been looking to become content. I've been looking to understand things better. I've been looking to get smarter. I've been looking to do things smarter. I've been looking to change my entire life. And why do I want to do that? Because I don't want to be 75 going, Jesus Christ, I don't know how the hell I'm going to pay for all these medical bills and put food on the table. I don't, and then saying to myself, oh, I got to be to work in an hour. I don't, I'll be lucky if I'm still on my both my, if I'm still upright at 70, never mind 75. So, and the truth of the matter is that we live our lives, our entire lives, struggling to have these, 10 to 15 years of freaking bliss at the end of our lives that we're so focused on that, like the golden age, the golden years. That's bullshit. The whole thing is fucking bullshit. That's major corporations' way of getting you to hold on to your W-2 and be afraid of everything else. What am I going to do when I retire? Stop thinking about what you're going to do with your retirement and start thinking about what you're going to do now. And the fact of the matter is that as long as you hold the W-2 and I'm, it's fine if that's what you want to do. I'm not saying it isn't. But if you're going to continue to hold on to your W-2, you can't have the level of freedom to do whatever the fuck you want all the time. You still have to answer. You're afraid of losing your job, right? So how are you going to take that sixth freaking vacation for the year? How are you going to pay for it? They give you the same fucking paycheck every week. But if you work for yourself, and if your time, if you charge people for your time what it was actually worth, which, you're letting some jackass decide that right now with your W-2. But if you charge people what your time was actually worth, you'd be able to take freaking 8 vacations a freaking year. And that's the reality. And why do we wait until we're 65 to do it? Because we've been told that that's the dream and that there's no other way to do it. And so we don't value ourselves the way we should. And so that's what the breakthrough comes down to. Self-sabotage is that old way of thinking that I need to keep this W-2, that maybe I'm just not good enough. And so, you know what, I'm going to focus on all these other things other than the thing that I need to focus on. So, why I did all this stuff with school is because with my neck, I'm not even sure I can do inspections. So it's a questionable thing even when I finish my product, but maybe I can make money on the school thing first. And at least then I'll be making something. At least then I'll be doing something, I could get my finances straight. I could start making money through school content. Excuse me. Sure, I can find other ways to make money that don't require me to make my neck worse. So, it's pivoting it's making a pivot for the sake of actually doing something productive. And I'm actually 100% positive that I'm going to achieve everything I need to achieve before it's at a point where it's too much. So, all that being said, our next podcast episode is going, as I've mentioned a couple of times already, it's going to be entitled Excitement and Abundance, and it's going to, I'm going to kind of detail that excitement and abundance breakthrough that I mentioned several times, and what that all means. It is an important thing, I think, for people to understand just how well you can change your life with the proper mindset, and that comes from the excitement and the laws of abundance. As always, I really appreciate everyone tuning in. Those of you that tune in on a regular basis. If you're new to the podcast, I want to thank you for catching it, and I really hope that you that you come back for more. And if you can like, comment, share on any post having anything to do with anything related to the podcast, I would greatly appreciate it. The more people who see it, the better the chances are that, then I can drive traffic to my school group, right? But in addition to that, it's good to have more people to bounce these thoughts and ideas that we discuss every week off of. And, and hopefully somewhere along the line for somebody, we will have, I'll have made a difference and changed your life. And as this is all changing mine. So all that being said, thanks once again, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.